In the last tutorial, we made this log store, and this time for Alex, what we're going to do is make Firepit here out of some rocks. But if it's not already enabled, what you can do is actually, there's a thing called rock generator, and it's found in extra objects. But if you want to actually enable it in your preferences, you can actually just go into here, type extra objects and select it just to actually enable it. So what we've got here is we've got our scene 3D cursor because I want our rocks to actually appear here. I'm just going to hide everything, A to select all, and I'm just going to hide everything by pressing the H key. Now you can make your man reappear by actually going in there and putting the filters on, and we can select our man and make him reappear. So we've added our rock generator in it, and what we need to do now is add in some rocks. So what we're going to do is add in 12 rocks. Add in mesh, add mesh, rock generator. We've got a rock there and it's generated where our 3D cursor is, and if we open this box up here, what we can do is generate 12 rocks. Generated 12 rocks and they're all on top of each other. Now I've pressed the 1 key to look from the front, and what I'm going to do is actually go on box select, which is found under here by holding the left mouse button, and we can actually select all our rocks and we'll just move them so they're in line with the base of our ground plane. So I'm just going to move these rocks to one side. In fact, now what I will do is actually just move them first, and we'll reduce them after we've joined them all together, because then we can do it all at once. So G and X, and I'm just moving them so they're just about touching but not much more. G and X, because what we're going to do is make ourselves a little fire pit where we can burn our logs safely, just like this. And we're just going G and X, and we're just going to keep going. Roll back on your mouse to actually get them all into your view. But I'm just going to move all my rocks to one side until all 12 are in a line, because it's a little bit small. G and Z, and I think that's the last rock. Yes, I'm pretty certain that's the last rock. What we can do now is actually box select all these and then join them together. So we've joined all our rocks together just like that, and what we're going to do is now simplify them just to make them low poly again, and then apply all modifiers. So I'm just going to apply all modifiers, apply. So we've applied all our modifiers. I'm just going to go into edit mode by pressing the tab key, and what I'm going to do is add a bevel to this. So I'm going to Control and B, because I still want that low poly look. Add a simple bevel in there, which then will actually make the rocks stand out that little bit more. I'm going to flat shade them just because it makes them have that low poly look just for our scene. And then we're going to go into the spanner or wrench and add in in fact, let's make this a little bit clearer so it's a bit easier to see. We're going to add in a simple modifier, so search and just spell simple, and we've got a thing called simple deform. So we've got simple deform here, and what we're going to do is now bend our rocks, and what we want to do is bend them by 360. Control Z to undo. And we've got the bend, and we're going to do it around the Z, which is bending around the actual central point, and then put 360 like that, and simply and easily we've made ourselves a little stone circle for our rocks and of course our fire. There we have it, and now what we can do is we need to apply this modifier, and then what we're going to do is add set origin to the mass of our surface, which puts the actual point in the center, which means that if we now scale this up, we can actually just adjust it to the correct size and move it into place so it actually intersects with our ground plane. Press Alt and H to make everything reappear, and we can just move our fire G and X and G and Y. And then of course we might want to actually add some detail to our rocks or to our fire pit. And you can add fire, you can add logs inside this, but what we're just going to do, I'm just going to add mesh cylinder, make it so it's a low poly one, so we can make it 8 if you wish, and we'll scale this down and scale it up in the Z, and we're wanting this to go on our fire, so if I look from the top, I can just move it into place like that, move it up in the air, scale it down to the desired height, and G and Z just like that. Now this could be something that we actually use to actually hang our pot from, but as always, let's add a little bit of distortion. So add a few loop cuts, hit the proportional editing, and we'll just move this to one side just to grow our influence ring. And what we can do is actually make it slightly distorted to give it a bit of life. G and Y, going to move it, and G and X, just to actually distort it ever so slightly. But of course, what we've got here is we've got our stick here, or you can simply zoom in on your stick and we can actually just extrude this out. So extrude along the normals, just like that. And I'm just going to move it to one side, G and Y, G and X, reducing my influence circle there. And we can actually select this ring, do the same to this. So we can just do E and just move this up there. And as you can see, we can actually just put a face on there. So now we've made a stick that we might be able to actually add our pots and pans. Just to actually improve the look of this, we can actually add a bevel into edit mode, L to select all, Control and B. And we just add a slight bevel to this just to improve the look of our fire pit. So going from the top, I'm just going to Shift and D to duplicate this, rotate by the Z by 180, and we can actually just move this to the other side, and G, because we pressed the 7 key and we're looking from the top. Now we can add a crossbeam to this, which of course is a simple cylinder, and scale this down just to give it a little bit more detail, and scale in the Z just to actually make it quite long, and then scale it down, rotate along the X by 90, and looking from the front, what we can do is just move this into place just like that, so it comes across the top just like so. So in this tutorial, what we did is we actually learned to use a simple deform to make ourselves a little fire pit where we can burn our logs. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and next time we'll probably work on the well. To add a bit more detail to things, you can also add loop cuts to this, and of course some distortion, and G and Z just to move it down and scroll it out like that. So we've made our little thing to actually hang our pots on to actually make our fire. If you don't like the actual look of your actual rocks, you can also of course select them individually and scale them up to your heart's content. Whoops. But not with the proportional editing enabled, because of course then it will alter all of them. Please subscribe to my channel, leave a like, and if you enjoyed this simple tutorial, then of course join me at a later date. And I'm just going to move these trees down a bit because they're up in air for some reason.